Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ. So we will continue our discussion on economy. In this session, we are going to deal with measurement of inflation. So here we will be discussing about WPI, CPI and all these different types of measurement of inflation. Now if you remember, we have so far completed about the types of inflation we have started off with, and we have discussed different measures to control inflation. Here we are going to discuss about measurement of inflation, how inflation is measured. So we have discussed about what is inflation. It is basically the increase in price levels, or the average prices increasing, persistent rise. It is a persistent rise over a period of time in the price level. Okay, so that is what inflation. We have discussed two types, demand pull inflation, and we have discussed about cost push inflation. Demand pull inflation is because of excess demand in the market that is caused due to the money supply. Okay, and we have discussed different reasons which are responsible for increasing demand in the economy, and this is how we understood demand pull inflation. Let's say in the x-axis national income, and here if you go for price level, this is aggregate demand and this is aggregate supply. So demand pull inflation means there is an increase in demand due to many factors. It can be due to increase in population, it can be due to increase in forex, it can be due to increase in money supply. All these can be factors. So demand curve will shift rightward, that leads to increase in price level. So this is what you understood as demand pull inflation. The advantage of the good thing is, actually you can see here on the x-axis, the growth actually increased, national income increased. Whereas in cost push inflation, you can see here there is aggregate demand, aggregate supply. So this is a normal situation. So national income, and here on the y-axis I'll go for same price level. Now here what is actually happening? Supply is less. See, cost push inflation is because of cost of production is high. When the cost of production is high, supply will be less. Okay, so supply curve shift leftward. There are many reasons for that. We have already discussed that. Okay, that is the supply side constraints, and supply curve shift leftward like this. So here you can see new point. There is an increase in prices. So this lead to inflation. This is what cost push inflation. But the problem here is, you can see on the x-axis, that is there is a decrease in growth, or national income actually decreased. So first case, even though price increase is there in the demand pull inflation, there is an increase in growth, national income. Here, even though inflation is there, it also accompanied with less supply or less national income, or national income reduced or growth decreased. Okay, so this is the worst type of inflation. And then we have discussed about different measurement or the different measures that you can take to control inflation. We have discussed from demand side monetary policy measures, and fiscal policy measures also we have discussed. So when you talk about demand side, from demand side, what are the monetary policy measures? I've told you, increase the reserve requirements, like CRR you increase, so the credit creation capacity of the banks will decrease. So what will happen? Money supply will decrease. Money supply decrease means purchasing power decrease, so the demand will come down, so inflation will come down. CRR increase, SLR increase, so these are the reserve requirements that you increase, means both having the same function, same way demand will come down. Apart from that, interest rate also you will increase, like you will increase the repo rate, you will increase the reverse repo rate, okay, you will increase the bank rate, MSF, all these will be increased. So these are part of monetary policy measures to check inflation. And what are the fiscal policies? Fiscal policies we have understood, like what you need to do, increase in taxes. When we talk about tax, direct tax you need to increase, so that money supply will be reduced, disposable income will be reduced, so the demand will be less. Indirect taxes, you have to, what you need to do, you have to reduce, so the supply will be more, so you can control inflation. Okay, so we have discussed about that, but only tax means you need to increase tax, because direct tax share is more in the tax. What about expenditure? Expenditure has to be reduced, because expenditure lead to excess money supply in the market. So this is what you need to do to control inflation from if it is demand side. Supply side, you have to take supply management measures. If the item is in shortage, you need to import that item, or if the item is in shortage, you should not export that items, Essential Commodities Act and all those things, defective supply chain, how to tackle this, how to avoid black marketing, and all those things we have actually covered. And in the third session we have talked about impact of inflation. We have discussed about the various positive impacts, how is it affecting the growth, what is the impact on the lender, what is the impact on the borrower, what is the impact on the bondholder, negative impacts, everything we have covered. So here we are going to discuss about one of the most important topic, that is measurement of inflation. Okay, so we will be starting off with a wholesale price index, WPI. So WPI, wholesale price index. So it basically shows inflation in the economy. Okay, it shows inflation in the economy. It won't show the impact on people. So when we discuss about impact on people, we'll discuss about consumer price index. So this is going to show inflation on the overall economy. Okay, so because it is actually wholesale, so when it is wholesale, it is going to show the impact on the economy. So inflation in the economy. Actually till 2014 WPI was used to regulate the monetary policies, or for framing the monetary policies. WPI is actually used till 2014 after Urjit Patel committee. We will be discussing about that in detail after some time. When we discuss about CPI, I'll tell you 2014 onwards it was shifted to CPI. Okay, so consumer side you will get the idea there. So monetary policy measures are now formulated on the basis of CPI, but till 2014 it was used for monetary policy measures. Okay, now it is based on wholesale prices, as its name indicate. Wholesale prices, is it based on all commodities? No, you cannot take all the commodities, so you will go for sampling. So selected commodities of selected markets. Okay, so wholesale prices of selected commodities of selected markets. Okay, so this is based on wholesale prices of selected commodities of selected markets, and now it won't take into account the services. Why? For services there is no wholesale market, so it won't take into account services, as services don't have any wholesale market, because services are directly sold and consumed, right? If you need any service, you go and you won't go to a wholesaler, you go directly, you avail the service and you get it. Okay, so there is no wholesale market for the services, so services are not actually included in the wholesale price index, and that is also one of the criticism, drawback of this. We'll come to that. Now who's estimating this? It is estimated by the Office of Economic Advisor, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, so Ministry of Commerce and Industry measures WPI. Now it is estimated in monthly interval. Earlier it used to be estimated on the basis of weekly interval. Now monthly interval. Till 2009 it was based on weekly interval. So weekly you measure the inflation, now monthly. Okay, what is the base year? Base year was 2004-05 and it was changed to 2011-12 in 2017. So 2011-12 was the base year of wholesale price index, now WPI. Now just like when we discussed about national income, I have told you, when you talk about GDP at constant price and current prices, constant price means base year price. So base year price is calculated on the basis of 2011-12. The base year for GDP measurement also 2011-12, here also 2011-12. Now it is based on 676 commodities. Now I'll show you what are they. Commodity groups. I'll make a column here, table here. Number of items, weightage. So I've taken 3 columns. So 676 commodities is what I'm going to take here. Okay, so it is primary articles. Second one, fuel and power related, fuel and power. Third, manufactured items. Okay, so manufactured items. So primary articles 102, number 102. Now here fuel and power 19, here 555. So here you can see some addition may happen. Okay, now weightage, if you go for, this is 20.12. exactly you don't want to know, approximately 20, that is what you need to know. 20, 14.91, okay, 64.97. so what you need to know is this is around 20%, this is around 15%, and this is around 65%. so this is the weightage. So what do you mean by weightage? Why weightage is more here? Weightage is actually the significance or the importance of that particular commodity group, how it is going to impact or influence the entire WPI. So if you see the first one is increased by, let's say, 10%, and the third one, manufactured items, is increased by 10%. Both actually increased by 10%. Inflation is there, means which one will have more impact? Third one will have more impact because weightage is more here. Okay, so weightage actually shows the significance or impact that it can make on WPI. So here, if there is an inflation or increase, it can make more impact on the WPI. So weightage is given more for manufactured items. So I hope this is clear. So you just need to know these are the commodities. These are the 676 commodities. So now it is 697 after this 2011-12 base year. After changing, it is 697 commodities. Okay, so that you can update here. So what is actually the criteria for weightage? Here we have discussed about criteria for weightage. It is actually the share in total production. So here the share is more, so weightage is actually given to the third one. So weightage criteria is actually share in production. Now how you will write this WPI? It is actually an index number. So how will you write the index number? We have discussed this many times when we discussed about GDP deflator. I have discussed that is also an index number. Sensex capital market we have discussed. So there also I told you Sensex is an index number. So here also index number. So how will you write this? WPI. You will write the base year. So what is the base year now? 2011-12 equal to 100. So this is what you call as the base year. This is what you call as the base value, because you need a base value, you need a reference value, right? From there increase is there. See, if I am simply saying this pen costs 10 rupee, can you tell whether there is an increase in prices of this pen or not? You cannot tell. So if I am saying earlier the cost was 5 rupee, can you tell now? Now still you can't tell, right? Because what you can tell is earlier 5, now 10. But what is this earlier? Is it 1 year back or 2 year back or 10 year back? You have no idea. So you need to have a crystal clear base year from where it happened, and you need to know the base value. Then only you can actually tell how much is the increase, what percentage is the increase, and based on that only you can actually calculate inflation. So that is actually the significance of base year and base value or the reference value. So here this is now if you calculate now December 2019, so December 2019, let's say the value is 179. Okay, let's suppose the value is 179. So what does this mean? If you are coming across this, what does this mean? There is an increase of 79% in the wholesale prices. Okay, so there is an average increase of 79% in the wholesale prices, or the weighted average is actually increased by 79%. So weighted average of these three items, right? These three commodity groups, the weighted average when you take it is actually increased by 79%, because from 100 now it is reached to 179. Okay, now what is how estimation is done? I'll tell you estimation here, how it is calculated. Estimation. So there are different methods. First one, point to point method. A point to point method. See, the formula is actually very simple. Now if you need to calculate inflation, what is the current inflation this month? Okay, so this is March. I am recording this video. So March, it is let's say WPI March you calculate. March today is 29, so March 29, and previous February you should be knowing. So February 29, so March 29 minus February 29 divided by base, that is February 29, previous one, right? So this is how you calculate percentage. 100 to 150, suppose there is an increase, just as you calculate percentage. How to calculate the percentage change here? 150, this is a new one, so 150, that is the final value, minus 100 divided by base value, right? 100. So 50 by 100 into 100, so you'll get 50% increase here. This is how you calculate percentage, exactly in the same way you calculate inflation. But percentage I have discussed with you when we discussed our CAT sessions, quantitative aptitude. I've given you a lot of shortcuts. You can calculate percentage faster. So you just need to see the factor of multiplication here, 1.5 minus 1 you'll get 0.5, add 2 zeros, so 50%, right? If it is 2 to 6, you see the factor of multiplication, that is 3. 3 minus 1, that is 2. Add 2 zeros, 200% increases there. So 6 to 18, you can see here factor of multiplication is 3. Factor of multiplication means 18 divided by 6, or 6 into what will give you 18. Minus 1 when you do, you'll get 2. Add 2 zeros, you'll get 200%, or we have discussed 100 to 800. So you can see here 8 is the factor of multiplication, so 8 minus 1, 7, add 2 zeros, 700% changes there. 6 to 9, what is the factor of multiplication? 1.5, or 3 by 2. 1.5 minus 1, 0.5, add 2 zeros, 50% increases there. So like this also you can calculate percentage. So here exactly the same method is what used. So let's say March WPI, okay, inflation rate equal to WPI March 2020 minus WPI. Now we'll go for last year, okay? So WPI March 2019, so compared to last year, okay, divided by base will be last year's. So WPI March 2019. I hope this is clear. So March 2020 I am calculating. So March 2020 WPI I will be knowing, right? This is the value I'll get from here. Like here this will increase. So I get a value. So that value I'll write here. What is the WPI value in March 2020? I should be knowing WPI value of March 2019, okay, divided by WPI March 2019. So similarly next month, April, if I need to calculate WPI April 2020 minus WPI April 2019 divided by April 2019. So like this you will be able to calculate inflation. So for example, I'm taking some random values, 182.6. Let's say you can take the actual values. I don't remember exactly the actual values. So 182.6 minus 176.6 divided by 176.6, okay? So it will give you around 3.4%, okay? So like this you can calculate inflation. I hope you understood. This is a point-to-point method. So every month you can calculate like this compared to the previous year. So what data you need to know? This month, this year, WPI value you need to know. Last year, same month, WPI value you need to know. So WPI this month minus WPI last year this month divided by WPI last year this month. I hope it is clear. Next is 52-week average inflation. That is the next measure, okay? 52-week average inflation. So it is actually, you know, what you'll do is you'll take point-to-point inflation every month and you'll take the average. So what you will do, it is the average of point-to-point inflation, as I have discussed, point-to-point inflation over previous 52 weeks, that is 12 months, previous 12 months, okay? So what you will do, you will take 12 month point-to-point divided by 12. So you get the 52-week average inflation. So how is it done here? You can see here, March 2020 March, this is how you calculate, right? Similarly, 2020 Jan you calculate 2020 Jan WPI minus 2019 Jan WPI divided by 2019 Jan WPI, and 2020 Feb also you will calculate 2020 March, 2020 April, add everything divided by 12. That is what you will do here. So you will calculate for Jan 2020, Feb, March, April, May, every 12 months divided by 12, you will get the 52-week average. So usually point-to-point is used. So this one is actually used for analysis. 52 weeks average is actually used for analysis. Now what is the weightage of food items in this WPI? The weightage of food items is 24.3%, okay? 24.3%. You just need to know roughly 25%. The next is consumer price index. Consumer price index. So this one shows actually the impact of inflation on people. So it shows impact on people. It shows the change in cost of living. I have already told you when inflation is there, the cost of living is actually increasing. So here it exactly show the change in cost of living as it is, understood from the consumer point of view. Earlier it was, wholesaler point of view. That shows the impact of inflation on the economy. Here, impact of inflation on the consumer. Okay, so it shows the change in cost of living. It shows the change in cost of living. Now this is actually used to grant the dearness allowance. So used to grant dearness allowance. And I've told you already, till 2014 WPI was actually used for the formulation of monetary policies, but 2014 onwards CPI is actually used after the Urjit Patel committee. So used for monetary policy formulation since 2014. So if you see before 2014 prelims questions, if you solve the question banks, the answer may be WPI, but since then it was changed. Okay, so it was again estimated on monthly intervals. Estimated on monthly intervals. It is based on wholesale price or retail price. Wholesale price we already understood, so here it is based on retail price of selected commodities. Okay, so retail price of selected goods and services. It is impossible to take all the goods and services, so essential or selected goods and services, we use the method of sampling. Okay, so it is estimated for 4 group of consumers. So I'll tell you that 4 different CPIs. Okay, so 4 group of consumers. So first one is actually consumer price index for industrial workers. So CPI, consumer price index for industrial workers. So that is the first one. Second one, consumer price index for urban non-manual employees. So CPI urban non-manual employees, that is the second one. Okay, then CPI for agricultural laborers. So CPI AL, CPI for agricultural laborers, and then CPI for rural laborers. For CPI for rural laborers. Now what is the difference between this agricultural laborers and rural laborers? Let's suppose this is rural labor. In rural labor, most of the agricultural labor will come. So in rural labor, apart from agricultural labor, some other jobs also are included. Okay, so agricultural labor is part of rural labor. But in India, mostly rural areas are understood as agrarian areas. So agricultural labor and rural labor is actually understood as the same, but these are different technically. Okay, so we'll start with CPI IW. In the same way, the others are also measured. So CPI, the consumer price index for industrial workers. So what are the items? I'll tell you food. Okay, mostly food. Around 46 maximum weightage is actually given for food, then clothing, pan, supari, gutka. Okay, now other items like rent, etc., rent, fuel, etc., all these are included. Okay, so rent, fuel, etc. is included. Now weightage, I've already told you, it shows the significance. See, the first one, the inflation or increase in food is 10% and increase in gutka 10%. Which one affect the maximum? Food affects the maximum, so we are given more weightage to food. Like that, weightage is given. So you first collect items and then you assign the weightage. The base year is 2001. So how will you write a CPI? CPI is also an index number. So CPI IW colon 2001 is 100. So this is how you will write this. And who's estimating this? Labor Bureau under Ministry of Labor and Employment. So estimated by Labor Bureau. Earlier Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So here Labor Bureau under Ministry of Labor and Employment. Okay, so when I'm saying now it is 180, what does that mean? There is an 80% increase. Okay, so 80% inflation is there. That is how you will interpret this, right? So here it is based on retail prices, as I have told you already. So weightage is more for food items, okay, so than WPI. In WPI and CPI, if you are comparing, weightage for food items is more. So when the food prices are going up, which inflation will be more? CPI inflation is more, because in CPI weightage for food items are more. Okay, so that was the reason why CPI inflation was high than WPI. But recently the food inflation is actually coming down. So now CPI and WPI is almost same. Otherwise CPI was greater than WPI. The sole reason is actually the cost of increase, the increase in cost of food. Okay, so because CPI is having more weightage is given for food is more in CPI compared to WPI. So if the prices of food is going up, CPI will go up. Now CPI is coming down and is almost equal to WPI. Reason is food prices are coming down. Now WPI is now coming down because, you know, crude oil prices are coming down. So I've already told you when we discussed about WPI, the weightage for crude oil is more. Okay, fuel is more in WPI. So WPI is now coming down because crude oil prices is coming down. So all this is how it is connected. Now what about this CPI urban non-manual employee? CPI urban non-manual employee, I'll tell you the base year 1984-85. So there's a base year, you just need to remember the base year. Okay, then CPI agricultural labor 1986-87. this one also CPI rural labor also the same. So these two base year is 86-87. So this is what these two are actually used by the state governments to, you know, change the minimum wages. Okay, to measure the revision of minimum wages. This CPI agricultural labor and CPI rural labor is actually used for the revision of, you know, minimum wages by the state government. So used for revision of minimum wages by state government. Okay. Now in 2011, CSO, Central Statistical Office, actually introduced 3 more CPI. So that 3 are in 2011, Central Statistical Organization, 3 new CPIs. So CPI urban, okay, then CPI rural, then CPI combined. And this was actually a question in 2012. These are broader. When we talk about CPI urban, rural, combined, these are broader. So here base year of all 3 is 2012. Base year 2012. So how will you write this? Just like the previous ones that we have written, CPI urban, if you need to write CPI urban, you go for colon 2012 base year equal to 100. So this is how you will write. Okay. And then if it is 170 means what? 70% inflation is there. Now the selection of items is depending on which one? The NSSO, the 68th round survey. 68th round 2011-12. So as I have told you, the base year for WPI is fixed in 2000 on the base of 2011-12. So here 68th round was in 2011-12. Every year NSSO conduct the survey. Every 5 years there will be large scale survey. So one of the surveys actually the surveys are actually called as rounds. 68 surveys were conducted, 68 rounds were conducted, out of which every 5 year large scale surveys will be there, which will reflect more detailed data and analysis. So here on the basis of this, you know, the selection of items and the weightage is fixed on the basis of consumption expenditure data. Okay, so on the basis of consumption expenditure data which was collected by NSSO on this round, 68th round. And after this in 2014, 3 new retail food inflation indices were published by CSO. Okay, so CSO came up with 3 inflation indices, 3 retail food inflation indices. Okay, so this is under consumer food price index, CFPI. Here we were writing CPI, consumer price index. So here it is crystally clear that it is, you know, food inflation. So consumer food price index. Okay, so consumer food price index. So one exactly the same. Here we have seen CPI urban, CPI rural, CPI combined. This was introduced in 2011, base year 2012. Okay, so here now we are going to discuss about retail food inflation. So CFPI urban, CFPI rural, CFPI combined. So CFPI rural, CFPI urban, CFPI combined. Okay, now base year of this three is also 2012. Base year is actually fixed as 2012. So how many CPI is there now in total? We can start with CPI of this industrial worker. Then we have discussed about CPI this one, urban non-manual employee, CPI agricultural labor, CPI rural labor, then CPI urban, CPI rural, CPI combined, then CFPI rural, CFPI urban, CFPI combined. So CPI rural, CFPI rural, CPI urban, CFPI urban, CFPI combined, CPI combined, and apart from that the first four. So total how many? 10. So total 10 CPIs are there currently. Next is not that significant, service price index. Service price index. Currently for some sectors only, selectively, like banking, civil aviation, etc. Okay, so it is constructed for selected services like civil aviation, financial services, etc. Okay, so for selected services, not that significant. Next is producers price index. So wholesale we have seen from wholesaler side, then we have seen from the consumer side. Now we will see from the producer side. Okay, so producers price index. So it takes into account the increase in cost till the stage of production. It won't consider the profit margin increases or the tax on traders or the transportation cost. Basically the distribution cost and all will not be taken into consideration here. Up to the stage of production, the cost of the increase in cost is actually considered under the producers price index. So it takes into account increase in prices till stage of production, till the stage of production. It does not include, it won't include distribution cost. Distribution cost means transportation cost, traders profit margin, tax on traders, all these things are actually not included here. Okay, so we have seen from retailer point of view, we have CPI. Wholesaler point of view, we have WPI, right? Producer point of view, we have PPI. So these three, now with this three you can actually understand from where, what is the root cause of inflation. Is it wholesaler side or a producer side or at the retailer side? So it is useful for government to understand in which stage the price is increasing. Okay, now one more important concept that I need to discuss here is base effect. Whenever we talk about inflation, you need to understand this. Sometimes you will see because of base effect, even though inflation is there, you won't see that. Okay, it's like this. Let's say let's take 3 years, 2000, I'll take 2014, 2015, 2016. Okay, let's take prices of onion in 2000, let's say 15 rupee. Okay, then 2014 it is 30 rupee. There was a normal increase from 15 to 30. Now suddenly there was an increase of increase here 100. Okay, then this 100 was actually reduced to 90. So here you can see here this is normal, right? This 15 to 30 increase over a period of 4 years was normal, but this is sudden. Now here there is a decrease, and you will write here 90. So what is the inflation here? There is no inflation, actually negative inflation, right? So minus 10% you will write here. Okay, but the reality is different. What is the reality? The price was to 30 in 2014, now it is 90. So inflation is there definitely, but when you are calculating, you will be getting no inflation or negative inflation. Why? It is because of the base. Okay, this base value was so high. I've told you inflation is calculated on the basis of the previous year. Base value you will be taking, right? So 90 minus 100 divided by 100, 90 minus 100 divided by 100. Previous value when you do, you will get minus 10%. Why? Because base value was so high. This is what you call as base effect. So theoretically, or when you calculate, you'll get no inflation, but effectively you see reality is different. 30 to 90, still there is a high inflation, but when you calculate, you will not get that. It will not be reflected because of the previous year's very high increase. Okay, so here there is a marginal reduction just compared to the previous year, but still inflation is there. 30 became 90, 3 times inflation is there. And not only when we talk about inflation, when we talk about production also this can happen. For example, you can talk about the production of wheat. Okay, wheat in million tons. So this year 2000, let's say these years, this 85, production was 95 million ton, now 50 million ton because of drought. Okay, and then 60. So here you will see here there is an increase. 50 to 60, there is an increase of, let's say 20% increase is there. Now why this 20% increase is there? Actually, because of this low base due to drought, that year production was so low, and next year there is a slight increase from that. So you are showing, or you are seeing that 20%. But what is the reality? From 95, it is still 60 only. So effectively there is no increase. Reality is entirely different. Okay, it was 95, now it is 60 only, but when you calculate, you'll get 20% increase, and hardly we calculate, we expect 4% growth only in the agricultural commodities. It is very difficult to get 20%. It is a very high growth. Now why it has happened? Why this 20% came? Because of previous year's low value. Previous year low value, because of that, now you can see high growth. Okay, which is never possible, especially in agriculture sector. So if you need a definition, what is base effect? It was actually a prelims question 2015. What is a base effect? It refers to distortion in growth rate of a variable due to its extreme value during the corresponding period of previous year. So that's what base effect. So that's about today's discussion. We have talked about WPI. We have discussed what is WPI. We have talked about CPI. We have discussed about 10 CPIs, and then service price index, producer price index, and base year. So that's about today's session. So if you have any doubt, you can get in touch with me here. This is my Instagram ID, and join the Telegram channel. Okay, you will get all my videos over there. So see you guys.